Fiona from Scotland Food and Drink. We're an organisation that promotes and grows the fabulous food and drink industry in Scotland. Really great to have you here today, and obviously you're cocktail lovers. Cocktails have become a really big thing in Scotland. So delighted to welcome David Lapsley, who's the sommelier patron of Etive restaurant in Oban. Has anyone been to the restaurant? Yes, good, okay, so there you go.
That's the hecklers.
This is the hecklers, yeah. So the lovely introduction I've got here about David, he's continually mastering the arts of wines and spirits, elevating experiences through flavour symphonies. That sounds very fancy, so you'll need to tell us what flavour symphonies. Guiding palates through Scotland's liquid treasures, he blends tradition with innovation, creating liquid narratives that dance across taste buds. That sounds quite something. And today he's going to talk about one of his signature cocktails, which I believe is martini. You've got some beautiful martini glasses and a lovely array of bottles at the front. So
for sure.
Thank you very much for coming, and over to you, David.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Folks, thank you very much for coming in today. I'm just going to do a wee martini masterclass, if we want to call it that. The martini I'll do at the end is my signature cocktail that we serve at Etive. But before that, I'm going to do a vodka martini, and then I'll do a dirty martini, and then I'll finish with that signature Gibson martini as well. The gins we're using, two of them are available next door. I'll get that out there first. The one here, the vodka, I was going to use gin, but then I didn't actually know they did a vodka from the Ben and Truett guys, so I thought we'll give that a shot. That's a nice, really salty kind of vodka, so it should work very well in martini as well, and that's why I'll do it in the classic. The Lussa gin,
lovely.
All the botanicals, got from the island. Both of these ones are all, sustainable at their core, and that'll work well in the dirty martini. That brininess should come through when we use some of the olive brine as well. And then for my signature, the Iona gin and Nicneen, which is a botanical spirit from the Ardnamurchan Peninsula. With these two, I'll be using vermouth as you would normally, but with my Gibson, all the ingredients I tried to do from the West Coast. So the Nicneen I'll be using instead of a vermouth, but it completely changes the drink, as some people can vouch for.
Great.
Glassware at home, generally, your standard martini glass that you'll find in most bars, shops, and all that kind of online, wherever you can get. Riedel, who are a glass-making company, they're one of the oldest in the world. They also do an entire range of cocktail-specific and wine-specific glassware, so we have that for theirs. And then the coupe. The coupe's a great, versatile glass to have. You can use it in so many different cocktails. You're really not limited to what one you want to, but they all have a bit of difference in how they look and how they feel and how you can use them as well. So I shall start doing my first one. Now, martinis, you'll always hear either shaken or stirred, made famous by Mr. Bond. In my opinion, never shake a martini. It should always be stirred. Anything with spirit, if it's spirit and spirit, you would always stir it because you want to blend the spirits together. You don't want to aggressively shake them together. The difference that comes is anything you use in a cocktail where you're using fruit, I would always shake, because again, that fruit, you want to open it up and get it mixing in with the spirit as well. So I would always shake a cocktail that had some kind of fruit element. If it was spirit, I would always stir.
Okay.
Generally speaking, the way I make my cocktails, they tend to be always with spirit as well. Before I go back to making, I was going to say, cocktail making equipment, you get an array of it. There's all stuff that's all specialised, some stuff that you can pick up, which is very handy. Calpol syringes, if anyone has a wee one.
No, some kit you've got there, my goodness. But you don't need all this if you want to.
No, you don't need all this. It's pretty simple. You just really need something to stir. A nice high glass. If you don't have a mixing glass, a large any kind of large container, pint glass even. Something to stir with, a bar spoon. I'll always double strain when I do my martinis, because as you're stirring it, you're chipping the ice, you're breaking down the ice. And the big thing with martinis and all cocktails is you don't really want dilution. So you want to keep as much of that ice out. The ice is really only there to cool the spirit, to chill it down. So I'll be using a Hawthorne strainer, and then I'll be straining it through a sieve as well before it goes into the glass.
So would these be the basic pieces of equipment if
that's the
anybody
absolute,
at home to have
the absolute
to invest
basics
in those?
would be them,
Okay.
for sure. So, vodka.
What's that one again, vodka?
So this is the Berendruck from
Okay.
Berend Kintyre.
Kintyre.
And it's a salt vodka.
You must love working with all these suppliers now, because we've got so many
It's good. and I
really
mean,
wonderful
the
local
gin
drinks.
industry in Scotland, it's quite funny because I think each gin distillery is looking at kind of declining sales, but it's because the market's so big. There's so many of them that they're not actually, the gin industry sales are through the roof. But these individual distilleries, every new one opens up, that pot of the pie gets reduced. Glassware. If I was at home or in the restaurant, I have all my glassware refrigerated. You want everything to be as cold as possible. Because even in the short time I've been standing chatting, that's already melting in as well. And as I said, you don't want any dilution. So a little bit of ice in the glass, we're just going to chill that down. Now, the martini I'm going to make first, I'm going to make a dry martini. So we're just going to be using a tiny bit of vermouth. There's some people say that the driest of martinis, the vermouth, you just flick over your shoulder. It doesn't even go near the glass. But we are going to put a wee touch in. And what we're going to do is just take it right to the edge and roll it all the way around.
Ah. Okay.
I want to go 50 ml.
So if you didn't have a really cold glass, that would make a difference to the taste as well? And
Yeah, everything will be chilled. The colder the glass, if the glass was coming out of the freezer, when you put that vermouth in, and as you roll it round, the vermouth will actually freeze and stick to the outside of the glass. So that's then, that's what you're wanting. So it coats that glass as well. Stirring down the martini. This is as dry as it's going to get. You're literally just chilling the gin. A classic gin martini. Touch of vermouth, ice cold gin, happy days. It's funny because everyone, and even myself included, before I really started looking at cocktails seriously, you all think they're really technical, and there are really technical ones out there, but some of the best are just the simplest in the world.
so do you notice in your restaurant then an increasing demand for cocktails? What would you say?
I think
what
people...
What are you seeing in the business?
I think
What
people,
people want to
with
drink.
lockdown, so many more people were doing a lot of this at home.
Right.
So
okay.
then when they're coming in, they kind of have their favourites. They have their favourite gin. They have their favourite style of doing it. I'm just going to do a wee bit of lemon zest. And I'm just going to put some oils over that. I've had this croaky voice for about 21 days. It's driving me nuts.
Oh dear.
I can't get rid of it, regardless of how many martinis I drink.
Oh, look at that. Lovely.
So that's literally a
Simple.
classic martini. Done with vodka. As I say, normally I'll use gin at the restaurant. Personally, I prefer a gin martini, but a vodka martini does work absolutely as good as well. The second martini that we're going to do, as I said, would be with the Lusser gin, and we're going to do that as a dirty martini. And I think I'll use the coop for that, actually. Does anyone make cocktails at home?
Just going to ask that. Yeah. What do you make?
Is there favourites?
Old-fashioned,
Nice.
the classic.
I think that's the one thing, the rise since COVID is the rise in classic cocktails.
Right, you've seen that, okay.
A lot of people going out now and in bars, it's like bought in sugar syrups. They're very sweet. They're very, you know, if you have one or two, they're quite sickly. Whereas if you have classic cocktails, you have one or two, you're a bit tipsy, is the opposite side of it.
But people also like the whole theatre around the ritual of making a cocktail and the serving and all, you know, it's a really nice thing to do, isn't it?
And it is, I mean,
And to see.
the bars that do it well, and that's what got me into cocktails. I was always a wine guy, I still am. You know, wines and spirits is my passion, but we were at a bar in Glasgow, myself and my fiance. She loves cocktails, that's our wheelhouse. That, you know, we were in a cocktail bar, and we'd been out for dinner, and the guy had said, you know, what do you drink? And I said, well, I'd be looking for a whiskey. And he asked me a couple other questions, and then he says, look, can you give me 5 minutes, and I'll make you a drink. And I was like, well, yeah, that's what I do when I ask people about wines. So I trust them. He comes back 5, 10 minutes later with this drink. And at that moment in time, I was like, wow, this is the best drink in the world. It was an Auchentoshan-based whiskey cocktail. And I was just like, this is fabulous. But it was that he'd figured out what I wanted and made the drink. And then I started seriously looking at cocktails and how you take those flavours and how you take those different spirits and how you blend them to create really nice, interesting drinks.
So it's the science behind it as well as the art, you know, it combines both of those things.
So for this one, I'm just going to do 20 ml of vermouth and 50 ml of the Lusser.
Has anyone tried Lusser gin before? Yeah, I hear lots of good things about it.
So generally speaking with cocktails as well, one of the big rules I always kind of follow, and I think is really, it's more important than having the basic tools, it's more important to have the basic things. The ice, never use the same ice twice. Use the ice for what it's been done, for cooling down, for in the glass, and then discard it and get fresh if you have to go back to it. Because again, this process is opening up that ice, and you don't want that. Get rid of it. Go back, get fresh ice. And the best ice you can get. At Etive, we've got all our moulds. We do really big kind of ice cubes. Funnily enough, they hold very well. They don't dilute too fast. And then tiny little cubed ice cubes, which are even better. They take forever to melt. And you're like, how can it? It's tiny.
Good tip.
Now, just before I strain that, I am just going to get a wee touch of the brine here. Try and make that over the sink.
So what does the brine do?
So that's just going to give it, this is going to be your dirty martini. So it's really going to muddy the texture. Ooh, I'm not going to use that much, that's very oily. So you'll see where that martini is crystal clear. And then when we go to pour this one, it's going to have a real kind of muddy look to it. And that's just all that olives, all that brine from the olive oil. With that one, we're just going to literally garnish with a single olive.
And how do you decide on the garnishes, like whether it's lemon or?
So with the
orange or,
martinis, you're kind of lucky because these are
stick to the
classic
classic.
cocktails, and these have been
Just
tried
drink
and
with-
tested and done for years.
Uh-huh.
But generally speaking, I always think if it's clean and refreshing, citrus always works really well. Those citric oils work excellent. When it's things like that that are much more briny and got more sharper notes, then you can get away with those kind of more oily side
Okay.
of things. And the Gibson martini, I am going to use in this one.
And if anyone's got any questions at any point, just stick your hand up. So please do.
Yeah, fire away, because I'll just talk.
You mentioned the importance of the ice.
Yeah.
So, do you notice a difference if you use tap water versus distilled water?
Oh, I've had a hell of a debate with that.
Good, interesting question, yeah.
Not so much in flavour or how it melts, you know, I've never looked at any of that kind of style. What I've always been trying to do is achieve the perfect, crystal clear ice cube. And that's what keeps me up at night. That is a nightmare.
So it's obviously harder than you would think then.
Well, the process is not actually that difficult once you understand it. Basically, when you freeze the water, all the little air bubbles, that top layer gets frozen first, and those air bubbles begin to go down. So that's where, if you see some of your ice cubes, it'll always be kind of like frosty and crystallized at the bottom, but maybe clear at the top if you're doing it larger. So what you then have to do is get a container, fill it, holes in the bottom, put that in another container with water, and then you're freezing it to a point where you then have to break out that ice, get your initial container out, and hopefully all the air bubbles will fill out. The problem with that is you need a freezer like this size just to get ice cubes like that size. And it's not practical. There are places that do it, these places, ice factories. We don't really have it so much in the UK. In America, you know, ice is $1 billion industry. You know, you have these companies making massive ice blocks, and then they're cutting them to size. You know, it's like, they're like lumber yards, but for ice. And we don't really have that in the UK.
But for people doing it, you know, domestically at home, then what would be your top tip? So that nobody's panicking about the ice now at home.
Top tip is, you know, if you're doing it at home and you're wanting to buy, you get these little rubber molds. You can buy them online for a couple of pounds. They are, you know, that's what I use in the restaurant. They are good. They work in domestic, you know, freezers. They don't take up much more room than your kind of generic ice tray that you would have anyway. So, and they do make a difference. They make a massive difference.
Right. That's a good tip.
So
what are we doing next?
This is my signature serve, which is a Gibson Martini. So
Gibson Martini.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is I might actually make a couple of them, and if anyone does want to come down and try, you are welcome.
I think the answer to that might be yes. I think yes. It's just a no. Yes, no, not you again, no.
Well, whoever goes last on the camera, it'll be like all over. So the story, where did I come up? My martini, I always wanted to have a signature cocktail that was kind of reflective of me and my love of spirits and stuff as well. I grew up on the island of Tiree. So Tiree, for those that don't know, is the furthest west of the Inner Hebrides.
That's where you grew up.
It's a very low-lying island in the water. It's very windy, it's got a kick to it, and so does this martini. When you first taste it, though, it's much more of the land. It's more kind of earth-based. You get that. We use a nettle cordial now. You can buy nettle cordials in any kind of health shop. At Etive, we do make our own, which is, it's actually the base of my mum's nettle wine recipe. Oh. But we obviously don't ferment the liquid, and we add a touch more sugar and reduce it further. But for the purpose of this, I wanted to use things that you can buy so you know what to get. So that wee hint of sweetness, that gives it that kind of floral sweet note as well. But then we garnish the Gibson, which is the definition of a Gibson, with some pickled onions. When you then have one of those pickled onions, it completely changes the whole drink. It makes it much more briny and much more of the ocean, because obviously, as you know, the ocean is a massive part of the West Coast. So that is my West Coast Gibson Martini. And I shall stop talking and get moving.
And what's that you're pouring?
So this is the Iona gin.
Iona gin, yeah.
Currently, the botanical source from Iona, where they can. But the gin's made on the mainland currently to try and get them to develop to fund building a distillery on Iona. So I've, my friends of mine, they've got the Tiree distillery. They did the exact same thing. And what it's done for Tiree, having the, as they said, when they opened up, they said, we've got the first distillery in Tyree since like 1780.
Goodness.
And my dad, who was a police officer, he was one of the first comments saying, boys, you've got the first legal distillery since 1780.
Yes, exactly. You must feel quite excited, though, about all these products that are on the market now, and
It's good.
just the whole scene around that, and
It's the vibrancy of it all as well. It's the people that are doing it, and the people that are going out sourcing
yeah.
all these amazing ingredients and putting them together. You know, they're doing a lot of the groundwork for us, because so many of the gins, when you get them, and that's the other one thing, if you've got your favourite cocktail, whether it's a whiskey cocktail or it's a gin cocktail or vodka, try it with different gins, different vodkas, different whiskies, because they all, you know, making a whiskey cocktail with Auchentoshan or Highland Park could be totally different results.
So you'd encourage everyone just to experiment then and not be scared about.
Yeah, don't get stuck
About-
just using the same thing. Hold more dinner parties and go through more spirit.
Anyone like to share any of their favourite cocktails that you make at home? Any? Other than the old-fashioned anymore?
I like David's Negroni.
Oh, right. You've got a fan in the front row. Oh, lovely. So nobody can make it like David then? No.
It's a wee bit different, my Negroni. It's good though.
Ah.
You drink mine and my
That's allowed, don't worry.
Stop giving away too much about
I
yourself.
wonder what's the secret of your Negronis. You might not want to give away all of your...
Like
Secrets
most
to
cocktails, it's just slowing down, taking time,
Okay,
making sure all the ingredients, like I say, are
lovely.
as cold as you can get them. And so that is my Gibson Martini. So, would anyone like to try the Gibson Martini? Yeah? Right, I shall
Good.
very quickly knock out a couple. You're more than welcome to come and grab that.
Any other favourite
And it won't take me
cocktails?
too long to make up some more.
There we are. Oh yeah,
I
take one to the
shall-
team. Good.
Batch.
That's right. Go put your feet up in the sun. Well done.
What's that?
There you are. Cheers. Gonna make some more. Any questions for David while he's rustling up some more cocktails? Yep, we've got a lady here.
What else was in the whiskey one that you had?
Well, that's the funny
Oh,
thing. I can't remember. That's what makes it funny for me, because, like I say, at that moment in time, I was like, wow, this is stunning. I knew it was Auchentoshan, but I
You
can't
can't
remember the
remember.
rest. But yeah, it was a stunning, phenomenal martini. Right, so I am going to go.
okay. It's going to remain forever a mystery, that one, I think. So,
Well, even for myself, because I
Even
woke
for you,
I woke
yeah.
up and thought, God, I wish I could have that again.
any other questions for David? Yep.
You said there was, you shouldn't shake them then, it's better to stir them.
Yeah.
What actually is the difference in taste then between the two?
Aeration. So when you get a shaken cocktail, you'll see there's lots of you'll get these tiny bubbles, and that's just been caused by that. As the ice moves in the shaker, you know, we're stirring that and just mixing the ice. So the act of stirring the ice chills the drink. Shaking it still chills the drink, but you're violently smashing those ice cubes together. So you get aeration and you get much more dilution, or the chance of dilution, because even even stirring those ice cubes, there's little bits break off. When you do it in a cocktail shaker, it's so much more opportunity for that. So you're slightly diluting the drink more, and a touch of variation as well.
Okay.
Like if you got a strawberry daiquiri, and they shake it, and then when they pour it, you get that wee foam on top. That's came out from that aeration as well, which changes the texture. I'd say texture more than flavour, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that help? Yeah.
1, 2, 3, so...
Also, you know, when you pour things from a height, that is that's not just for show, is it? Is there a, or is it just
I'd
for
say
show?
partly show.
You could have told me some kind of really technical reason why you had to pour it for me.
I mean, you see these guys in, it's like Marrakesh that do the tea, where they pour and
Yeah,
pour and
that's
pour and pour. I'm like, no way. I'd just make a mess.
Oh, well, there you are. Any other questions?
So the other one on stirring, when you're going, as a rule of thumb, when you're doing, if you're bartending, this is your point as a bartender to check the bar. Because you're standing there, you can't move. It's probably one of the few times where you actually get to stand still and just look around and see what's going on. The table needs cleared, customer needs a bill, they're looking for something. This is your, as a bartender, this is your kind of happy 20, 30 seconds of a shift where you go. Somebody comes in and orders a martini, you're like, yes. Get to stand still.
Are there any sort of trends that you're noticing, or is there going to be a next big thing? Or, you mentioned that people are liking the classics again.
I thought rum would be
Yeah.
the next big thing. It is to an extent, but not as much as I thought it would be.
Right, okay.
There's a couple of Scottish rum
Got
distillers.
some, good Scottish rum now,
There's a couple of existing gin distilleries that are also doing rums as well.
We just started tequila.
Yeah. I'm kind of currently making my own vinegar. I thought once I finish that, I'm going to try and do my own vermouth. But my house has got enough Kilner jars to
Oh, goodness.
stock a shop. Which you'll find my good lady through there, she'll tell you.
Okay.
Don't bring it up, I'll get a row. Yeah, there's another wee couple of tasters there if anyone would like to try.
Anyone like to try? Yep. Form an orderly queue.
Yeah, I don't have enough skewers, so I'm just going to drop the wee onion in. So if it's
Can't
got
come to a
onion, you can
cocktail
go.
class and not taste a cocktail. Goodness me.
Oh, that one's got 2 onions. I'm going to make another quick batch. I'll do another.
Any more questions for David, or like to share anything that you like or have tried?
See your whiskey cocktails, is there just any variation?
Generally speaking, yeah, whenever I do whiskey cocktails, if I look at, what's the other ingredients in it, so if it's a vermouth or it's some fruit element or whatever, I would always try and say, how does that correspond to the tasting notes of that whiskey? So, for instance, like Oban, I said I had kicked it.
The whiskey tasting
Yeah,
notes.
so I would look like Oban is more kind of honeyed, very small, kind of touch of smoke to it. And I've done that with, I've used it in a Manhattan or something like that and do smoke, add smoke into the glass. Or add another
You've got
element.
a peaty whiskey, a proper peaty whiskey like that.
Yeah, so
Okay.
a really peated one, the last one I did was Lafroig. What did I do with that one? That was a sour.
To drink it.
Yeah, I think it was a whiskey sour I did, so it was a really, Lafroig, sugar syrup, lemon juice, egg white, shake it up, and then when you pour it, it's got a lovely foamy cream texture on top.
Oh.
So it's like a wee kind of Lafroig, almost kind of milkshakey texture.
Nice. Do you keep a notebook? Do you write lots of things down? Do you write things down when you get ideas? Do you write your recipes down, or is a lot of it just in your head?
Yeah, I have a cocktail book written. It's just going to cost me a fortune to buy all the ingredients in that one or to do it to get the pictures.
Oh gosh, right. Yeah. Crowdfunding, yeah.
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 Do you know anything that can help me with that?
Okay. So one day we'll get your cocktail. Maybe next year, come
Yeah,
back
it
and we'll.
started out as, I'll do my favourites. I'll do my signature ones that we do at Etive, and you know we'll use those cocktails. And then I thought, well, actually, you can't do that without doing the classics. So let's look at the classics, because if you can master the classic cocktails, you'll have a really good base to go on and make your own and do other things. And then I thought, oh, I'll chuck in this. Oh, I don't have any of that. It's up to like 68, 72 cocktails or something ridiculous. And I'm like, oh, I need to cut this back now.
But is your mind always kind of buzzing with ideas? Do you?
Yeah, generally
find
speaking,
that,
whenever
you
I
know-
get a new gin, whenever I get a new whiskey, a new product, I'll always try it, taste it, and think, you know, like you were saying with Lefroy, just drink it. There are some whiskies out there you think, I can't really ruin that, I'll just have to have it on its own. But, you know, there's certain ones. Springbank 10 makes a stunning Boulevardier, which is the kind of whiskey equivalent of a Negroni. And it's just tasting these whiskies and then thinking, oh, actually, I'd like to try that as a, you know, whatever. Yeah,
Because would you say that some people who might not consider themselves whiskey drinkers
but love a whiskey cocktail.
like a whiskey cocktail? It's a good way
Absolutely.
to introduce them to the drink, yeah.
Absolutely.
Which is the rums that you're rating?
The Ascig, so the rum from rum, which I thought was they don't really do
Rum
enough.
from
They
rum.
don't really do enough with that tag. I thought that was really good. The Deer Island from Jura, it was delicious. Their coffee one, there's nobody in here that makes it, is there? I wasn't too keen on their coffee. It was for me, it was just like a really watered down espresso. But yeah, the Deer Island rum, it was very good.
There's quite a big buzz this weekend because has anyone had Isle of Harris gin? In that beautiful
Oh, the
bottle,
Etive.
yeah. So they're just launching their whiskey this weekend.
Yeah, the Harris whiskey.
But no, it looks like the gin, but it looks absolutely
Yeah, it
stunning.
does look stunning.
So there's great excitement, I think, this weekend in the industry when it's been released. Bottle,
then,
I
folks,
know, their design's absolutely.
There is another wee 6 cocktails there if anyone would like
Another
to come
6.
and grab.
Thank you for volunteering to come and taste a cocktail. Thank you.
Now remember, the onion changes the drink. So I don't have enough skewers, so you just have to use your fingers, but
It changes the, yeah.
yes. One more. There is unfortunately not.
Oh,
I could very
You got any
quickly
more?
clean the last one though.
do share any thoughts about the drinks, what you like, what surprised you, Everyone happy with their drinks, I hope?
So like I say, it has got
Right.
a kick to it. It's got a lot going on. But when you have it with one of the cocktail onions, that's how it shows how the garnish can change.
Yeah,
cocktail
because
as
what
well.
does that do? What's the onion, what does it do to the...
So I think
Drink.
when you've got the Iona gin, when you first taste it, it's more the gin and that nettle cordial's kind of working with it when it's pulling out the sweetness, the more kind of floral element to it. But then when you have the onion, I think the onion pulls the nicnine to the front, which is that salty, more botanical kind of notes, and that's what it's kind of making it more of the ocean. But yeah, it's just the wee pickle, the sweetness of the onion. That's just how it changes it. It's a very good cocktail to have. Oh.
Yeah. What about mocktails? Because we've seen a rise in people looking for
Definitely.
non-alcoholic drinks as well. So are you doing a lot of those in your...
We did.
business?
We always tried, but they never really sold.
Really?
As the honest, you know, you would always go to some effort, and thank you. They wouldn't go, but your kind of non-alcoholic Negroni, iced peach tea, cranberry juice, and then Ferragaya, which is a non-alcoholic distilled spirit.
From Scotland,
That's a
yeah.
beauty, and it's non-alcoholic. You can just have it all day.
thought round and you wanted to.
Yep, so
Good
the
question.
general rule of thumb, if it's a fruit-based cocktail, anything you'd have to shake, you could get away with making the base and batching it. And if you do that, keep it in the fridge so when you then go to shake, it's already starting with a head start, cool. If it's just a spirit-based cocktail and there's no real perishables, then yeah, you can batch it and you can keep it for, I would say, a week. You know, it would last much longer, like everything, but it would be as fresh as for kind of up to a week. But anything with, if you had an actual fruit, so if you made a lemon juice or a lime juice or, you know, any kind of fruit puree that you made, that will go off as it would in any other case. Sugar syrups will last a lot longer if you make a fruit sugar syrup. So the easiest rule is it's 1:1. So if you have your liquid element and it's a litre, you know, you use a kilogram of sugar, put it in and reduce it down until it coats the back of a spoon. You know, when you mix it, you can cool that, bottle that. They'll last just over a month regular because there's so much sugar in it. You know. So that's the three kind of style of martinis.
Okay.
So the classic martini, which I
Classic.
just seen, was just literally a lick of vermouth, and then the spirit. But it's all about the temperature. Again, ideally, if I was at home or in the restaurant, all these spirits would be in the freezer, so that when you start this process, you know, you're not putting
Okay.
room temperature liquid into
Okay.
this. So you're starting everything as cold as possible. So if you are doing cocktails at home, 15 minutes before, stick the glasses in the fridge or freezer.
Okay.
Just give it as long as you can, give it as much time. I think that's the biggest difference with a cocktail. You know, every single element should be cold.
Yeah, that's a big
chilled.
takeaway, I think,
That's the
that
big one, yeah.
how important the temperature is. Yeah.
Don't use the same ice twice. You know, if you use it once, discard it. If you need to use ice again, even if it's in the glass, you see people where they build a cocktail in a glass, like a Negroni. You would put the ice cube in, you could pour the gin, the vermouth, the Campari, and stir. I would always do it in a mixing glass and then pour it into a frozen glass with a fresh ice cube because it's got less chance to heat or dilute. But yeah, keep everything as cold as possible. And then I can't remember who said it. Somebody famous was asked, you know, what's the best way to drink a cocktail? It's quickly. You know, don't give it any time to heat up. Just get rid of it.
Great stuff.
There we go. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, any more questions, or is that no? No? That's
No.
it. Well, cheers to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.